How do we know what things we should say yes to and what things we definitely should say no to? How do we know when we should go with the flow, basically, or when it's time to get out of the stream? And really, how do we take control without missing the magic? That's what it's all about. Hey guys, it's Benjamin Zamish, the author of Creating Freedom and the founder of Move, Learn, Create, and welcome back to the Manic Serenity, where I am helping people to become more receptive to the magic that is available to them in this life. This is episode 34, Unfollow. We are talking about going with the flow, the truth about going with the flow. We've all heard this expression. But do we ever really stop to think about what it is that we're saying? Are we aware? Have we taken the time to really make ourselves, each as an individual, aware of the times and situations in our lives where we were empowered by going with the flow, when it helped us to expand and to progress? And then on the other side, have we ever really gotten a clear view of all of the damage that has actually been done in other times of our lives when going with the flow did not serve us at all, when it pulls us out of alignment and turns us away from moving forward towards our true nature, our highest nature, that thing that we're all seeking to become, the expression of what it is that's within us. So I know that we've all experienced both of those situations over and over again. And it's so important to get a clear perspective on what distinguishes one from the other, so that we can really allow the lessons here to guide us to our ultimate possibility. Because never have I really heard somebody address this. And I know that for me, so many of the struggles that I faced and kept facing over and over again, the lessons that I just couldn't seem to learn, were because I really didn't understand this aspect of the human experience. Obviously, I could see the things that had served me and I could see the things that had not served me, but I wasn't really able to come to a distinction that could be turned into a tool to effectively help me move forward and progress in a real way, in a tangible way, to bring about a lasting, sustainable, transcendent reality in my life that I was definitely looking for. So it was only through the relentless focus and constant practice of cultivating more clarity and gaining perspective that I was then finally able to see the variables that really determined whether or not I would benefit from or be damaged by going with the flow in any situation. And excuse me, it's obvious to any of us what this clarity will give us, what it will offer us and yield to us immediately upon attaining it. I mean, I think any of us, if we've really thought about this, then definitely we've made this a priority in our life, because when you look at it, you just immediately see, if you could figure this out, if you could know when to say yes and when to say no, I mean, you won't have to suffer anymore from the negative momentum of the world, that we previously allowed ourselves to get caught up in and influenced and swayed by. And then on the other side, we won't miss out ever on the countless opportunities to get swept up in the beautiful, the incredible, the positive momentum of the same world that's just running a little bit over here on a parallel track. The balance, people say duality, I really like polarity. The polarity of the experience. It's not going to be hard to do this. It's not hard to acquire this kind of perspective. We're going to get this right away as soon as we just take the time to look at it. And then the only roadblock that will lie in our path, that even can lie in our path at that point, is just going to come, hopefully not for you, but it did for me for a while, but it will come from our inability to act on the truth that we then have the clarity to see, to perceive. Will we have the strength to act or not? That will be the only real roadblock. And I think that's just a matter of time, because your desire wants what your desire wants, and once you can see more clearly what that is, you're going to take the proper action. It's just a matter of getting the clarity. So I think that definitely too many of us have allowed our actions for too long to be dictated by outside influences. So even though we have all of this knowledge, a phenomenal amount of knowledge, all of us, that what we have access to, and the amount of information and knowledge that we absorb a day now is just astonishing. And through that, we do gain clarity on a lot of things, but we don't really put it into practice. Like Brendan Burchard says, common sense is not always common practice. It would be more accurate to say common sense is almost never common practice. It's like the most profound insights ever you're like, wow, that's kind of common sense actually when you think about it. Well, it should be, but we're just not taking the time to transform that knowledge and all of that information into power, which takes action and strength. So we basically let the direction of the masses, the momentum of the world, determine for us as an individual which way our internal compass points. And this is a hopeless method. This will not work. We have to each do the necessary work to cultivate our own momentum, our own vision, our own perception, and expand that perception to allow us to act immediately and walk forward. Have the strength to walk forward when the universe does open a door up for us and grants us a new possibility, which it does every time that we gain more clarity and gain a better perspective. It gives us that in return. So on the other side of it, a little more about the challenges, I'm always talking about the limitations, right? And I'm always talking about the struggle and all of the work that we need to be doing to overcome this predicament of disempowerment, really, that we're allowing ourselves to stagnate in. A harsh, now that I hear myself say it, a harsh way of describing the reality, but I mean, let's be honest, everything else is moving so fast, and how fast are we evolving? It's out ahead of us, definitely, and we're swept up in the current. So let's look at this and let's try to see how to gain perspective on how and when to go with the flow. So first of all, if you have not seen last week's episode, it was like the shortest distance between 2 points. It's all about goals. Definitely go back and watch that episode if this is a topic that gets you, if you feel like this is something that needs to be a priority for you. Go back and watch that episode. It's going to help support this understanding in so many ways as we go along. So first of all, going with the flow, I want to look at the word flow. You've probably heard about the state of being in flow. It's a very trendy modern term. Perhaps you've read the book or heard it described and really embodied so well by Jason Silva and people like him. Big shout out to Jason and his YouTube show Shots of Awe. It's incredible. He does such a great job. And also, Jason, you changed my life with your speech at Robin Sharma's Titan Summit. So thank you for that. That was incredibly impactful. But so flow, it could be called a brain state called transient hypofrontality. Actually, it's a measurable, quantifiable neurological phenomenon, basically a way that the brain operates that allows us to access our genius. It's this kind of hyperconscious slash, unconscious removed place in our brain that gives us access to this effortless type of mastery, this incredible, it goes beyond expertise. It moves into this effortless, absolute state of fluid perfection. And we see this with people who are the best in the world at what they do. And this is a real tangible experience that not only is available to all of us, but it's something that we have all experienced at least to some degree. And I just don't think we perhaps know enough about it to kind of go, oh wow, that was, look at how I was in that moment. Look at how I performed when I was that way. Look at the reward, the internal fulfillment that I experienced when I was in this state of being. But it's such an anomaly compared to the normal humdrum, day-to-day life and toil that we go through, that we don't really take the time to acknowledge it and to dive deep and look into it. But then some people hone right in on that. And they structure their entire life in the ways that will and would, if we did the same, would support us in consistently being able to access this state. And in a way, we're all seeking this all the time. We know that there's a better way of being. We know that there's kind of that effortless grace somewhere in the background that allows our true potential to emerge as we watch in awe of the gift of our humanity. I think we've all touched on that at moments, but it's so elusive, and so for many of us, I think it becomes just this abstract idea, this feeling of something better, something better that we can't really remember. We must have forgotten. Right? We must have forgotten. The longing wouldn't be there if we hadn't once known it. But we do have the longing, and we do have the sense that there's this power and this grace and this just more. There's something more. There's something deeper. It's there, and if we're not looking at that, it's because we are deliberately ignoring it, or we are incredibly proficient in the art of distraction, which we've got to be the best right now collectively in the history of the planet. But so let's think now that we have that understanding of the word flow, going with the flow, what is it that we're really saying? What is it that we're really trying to access? What are we doing then when we choose to go with the flow? With the people in the situations that are around us? Well, we're basically trying our best to access this state of grace, this state of effortlessness, of openness, of receptivity to life. We're trying to let it in. We're going with the flow. We're trying to access that magic by just letting it in, and we're doing it the best way we know how. It makes sense, right? Go with the flow, because really we're tired of the constant resistance between life and ourselves. There's so much resistance. There are so many things. We have so many barriers, so many boundaries that are always being pressed on, and we're in this constant battle. All of our energy basically is going to this battle between us and the forces of life that are trying to impinge, on our destiny that we're trying desperately to create for ourselves. So then on top of it, you'll hear 1,000, New Age spiritualists preach to you and really, vehemently, passionately, proselytize and try to influence you because they're convicted that this is a real, this is the way, this is the way. The power of allowing. Just say yes to everything. You have to allow. The universe is trying to send you a message. Oh my God, look, 333 on that license plate. Okay, I do that one too. I can't help that happening in my mind. But I mean, look at look at what we're doing, right? We're trying to seek this thing. We're trying to seek this elusive thing, this state of grace, this fullness of being that I'm always talking about. And we know that it's available. Even if we've never actually defined it for ourselves, we are still aware that there's a better way. So now, first, let's look at what we should be doing, right? Let's look at what we should be doing, and then we'll look at what we're actually doing instead. We should be seeking solitude, okay? We should be cultivating perspective, striving for wisdom, and working to expand our perception. We should be making sure that the one and only really priority in our life is the ability to see with total clarity what this life is truly longing for, to see, to actually perceive where the creation is trying to push us. You know, what is it that we're being drawn to? What is that actually? That is the priority. We should be striving to master this phenomenal mechanism, you know, of the human system, the body and mind. We should be trying to gain more and more virtuosity every single day over our very life energies that are powering and driving this experience and controlling that destiny that we're trying so hard to control with our body and with our mind. We should be learning how to cultivate greater clarity on what our highest values are, giving ourselves in doing so a clear perspective and a clear direction that supersedes the significance of any goal. There's no goal that will fulfill you forever. They're just checkpoints. But what are they checkpoints towards? Because that is the ultimate. Where are you headed? Are we headed towards the ultimate? Are we headed towards what our desire is truly seeking? This must be the priority. We should be learning how to break the barriers and destroy the limitations in our life. And then after doing that, we have to learn how to create our own momentum that will carry us in its own flow. Okay, we should be learning how to align ourselves with the mechanics of creation. First, we have to figure out what the mechanics of creation are. That's why we do this every week. And then we should be learning how to align ourselves with that so that we can feel the winds in our sails, you know, the winds of salvation in our sails, rather than trying to swim up this current against this force that's causing so much resistance. But we're not doing those things. We are not doing those things. So what are we doing? You know, how have we, in our shallow assessment of life, decided to access flow? Well, we're listening to the advice from earlier. I mean, we're saying yes to everything. We're deciding that when we're in Rome, we should just do what the Romans do. And we're letting the collective momentum of the world around us, which is literally just the product of mass unconsciousness. Just everything that's not analyzed, everything that's not seen with total clarity in every individual's life, add that all up, and that's the momentum of society. And we're allowing that combined with the foreign installation of so many forces beyond our control that have an influence on our being. We're letting all of those things determine the flow of what we then actually have the arrogance and the immaturity to call our life. It's my life, you know, it's my life. No, it's not. It's not. We live inside our own psychological dramas. And we're so hypnotized, we're so mesmerized and fascinated by its tragic suspense that we actually forget that it's just our own dream. It's just our own creation. And then we think we're running the show. And it's a hopeless method, and it's very Well, it's not sad. It's very necessary for freedom. There must be bondage, but it's very hopeless. That's the word. It's a hopeless method. At some point, it must be turned around. The approach must be changed dramatically, or else no real progress will ever happen. And for the individual in that situation, it will be devastating. It will be devastating. So, if we do the work that's laid before us now, if we really do this and we really set out and strive and do all of the things that we said earlier that we should be doing, the flow of life is going to come for us and take us. There will be no more debate, no more vacillating over whether or not we should say yes and whether or not we should say no. Because once you have become, inundated by the currents of real, tangible, experiential connection with the source of all of this, you are taken in its flow and you just become a giant yes to life. It's not that you're out here with your body and your mind saying yes to all these external things. You have controlled this mechanism, and in doing so, you have allowed the flow of creation to express itself through you. You have become a yes to life, not a yes to your psychological drama and to others, influences on you. There's no debate about this anymore. There's no struggle about this anymore, and certainly there's none of that resistance that we're all trying so hard to free ourselves from. And a life of great activity will be ramped up 10 times more, yet our ease and our restfulness will go to places that we just couldn't have imagined before. But if we're not doing that yet, if we're not capable yet of striking out and setting down this path, then we will. The time for us, each of us will be different, but the time will come for each of us. And until then, I would admonish you, going with the flow is a really easy way to get caught in the current. And we're not out here trying to drown. So thank you all very much for joining me for this episode. I will be back next week. If you feel like setting out on that journey and striking out on that path, I have given it my best shot. I'll keep upgrading it and remodeling it, revising it, and improving upon it. But there are some incredible resources. The links are in the description for the video that I've put together. They're free. They are intense. They are not 20-minute videos. They are serious things. So if you just do that and just try those things out for a little while, they are very simple, very accessible, very practical, and fundamental. And I know that because you're a human being, they will work for you, because I know this one, and I'm a human being as well. So, all right, thank you guys, and I'll see you next week.